Newly formed Sedgwick County Mental Health Hospital Advisory Board held its first meeting. So Governor Laura Kelly announced the 14-member advisory board last month. Her goal is to improve state mental health care. The 14-member panel is considering public input and recommendations on the operation, location, and workforce development needs on a proposed 50-bed psychiatric hospital in South Central Kansas.
We wanted to make sure we had a place to draw those opinions and thoughts in both what information they've been gathering in the past and how that might change in the next couple of years. So having a formalized way of doing that as an advisory panel to the governor and the legislature seemed like a good way to pull all that together, have a venue for it.
The governor's office says the hospital would address the shortage of inpatient mental health beds in the region and allow patients to remain closer to home and family while they receive care.